asase a yen nananum de jaw yen huban. Na inchirimba ambre.
TV3Newday, it's time now for the big issue. And one of the biggest topics for conversation today would be that release from the Ministry of Communications asking for an extension of the deadline for the SIM re-registration. I remember that this started officially on the 1st of October 2021. It was in accordance with the Subscriber Identity Module Registration Regulations 2011 LI 2006 or 2006. And we were told that this was a way to address fraud and other criminal activities perpetrated by fraudsters. Using the SIM card. We were told that we'll be given just about a few months, in fact, 6 months, to be able to go through the process. And every Ghanaian was expected to use their Ghana card to re-register their SIM. It was fraught with many challenges. A number of people spoke out about this issue and said that, well, I don't think the time is enough to get all Ghanaians to re-register their SIM. So extend the time. And in fact, the NIA spoke on this matter as well some time back. And I'll just read a bit of what they had said regarding this issue. So this was on the 22nd of February, 2022. So the administrator at the National Identification Authority, Cecilia Erzua, had pleaded with mobile telecommunications networks to extend the deadline for the registration. And she said that, well, you cannot frustrate Ghanaians this much. Minority also asked for an extension of the time. I remember that Honorable Son George was here some weeks ago, and this is exactly what he had to say about the SIM registration. He said that, well, the ministry or the minister was doing hot air, and that if they did not extend the SIM re-registration, they were going to file a lawsuit against them. Let's take a look at that video quickly.
Is that the minister's threat of SIM cards being deactivated by end of March this year is hot air. It won't happen in this country.
Really?
It won't happen. There's no legal basis for it. Look, Ghana is not a banana republic. A minister doesn't just wake up and throw orders around. Markets. Here.
Today first.
Yes.
That what as long as
I said on the 1st of April. People who have still not registered will be able to use their phone cards, their SIM cards.
Okay. How are you so
sure?
She will
come back and tell you she's varying it.
1st April is April Fool's Day. Oh, why are you so sure?
Because because we are not a banana republic, and because you cannot just wake up and say I'm giving 6 months. If you don't register your SIM card, you lose use of your SIM card. Go and take a SIM card. And look at the SIM card. There are terms and conditions that were attached to that SIM card when I got into a contract with my telco, my MNO. Part of it did not tell me that because of a Ghana card, I would lose use of my SIM card. I have a contractual agreement with you. I have airtime I've bought on my card. Then you say you will not. We will sue them from here to Mars. And we will win the cases. Because at the end of the day, you don't just wake up and use administrative. Look, Article 296 of the Constitution is clear. Yes, you tell me the minister has administrative powers. Yes, but Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution, which talks about use of discretionary power, says it must not be arbitrary, it must not be capricious, and it must not be whimsical in its use. This is arbitrary, capricious, malicious. In fact, all the choices you can think about.
And Honorable Son George will be joining us on air shortly so he can tell us what he makes of that statement that was released by the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization yesterday. I'll read through it before I introduce my guest for today. Now, I said extension of deadline for SIM card registration. The SIM registration exercise began on 1st October 2021 and is expected to end on the 31st of March 2022. As at 17th of March, 14,091,542 SIM cards have been linked to the Ghana card. 10,348,532 biocaptures conducted and 99,445 new SIMs registered. Due to a number of factors, including the fact that over 7.5 million citizens and residents are yet to obtain the Ghana card to enable them register their SIM cards, it is clear that the deadline for completion of the registration of the remaining active SIM cards cannot be met. More time will also be required to update the SIM registration app for the registration of diplomats, while a self-service SIM registration app is also being developed to facilitate registration of SIM cards for Ghanaians resident abroad. This will be operational by mid-April. So these issues make it imperative for the deadline to be extended to ensure that every eligible SIM card is captured and we produce a credible database by the end of the exercise. The Ministry of Communications and Digitalization has therefore extended the deadline for the registration of subscriber identification module SIM cards to 31st July 2022, and says we recommend all Ghanaians and foreign residents in Ghana for their support in ensuring that through this exercise we develop and build a credible SIM database with integrity, which will help address issues of cyber fraud and promote secure SIM card-based transactions as part of our efforts to digitally transform the economy. It was signed by the Minister for Communications, Honorable Esla Owusu Ekufu. Joining me in the studios this morning, I have Prince Owusu Sefa. He's the CEO, you can say administrator for GIFEC, and GIFEC is the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications. He speaks on behalf of governments. Good morning.
Morning.
Good to have you in the studios. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you very much. Now, based on this statement that we have read, of course, there were earlier calls to have the deadline extended beyond the 31st of March. In fact, the NIA had even said that they would be happy if the extension went all the way to the end of the year. At what point did we realize that it was necessary to extend this? Because for a very long time, a lot of Ghanaians, and yesterday we saw what was a near stampede maybe, at the head office of the NIA, people trying to get their Ghana cards so they can register their SIM so they don't lose their cards. Did we not consider all these things early enough?
Oh, Bella, I think, first of all, I'd like to just, greet all your viewers and to let them know that we're with them. This assignment is for them. It's in their interest. And I think often in the politics of all of this, so much is lost as people try to make it seem because of the political optics, right? It's just amazing, with all due respect to the deputy ranking on the communications, select committee on communications. He already knew this was going to be looked at. Okay, with all due respect. Knew it. Of course.
How do you say that?
Why wouldn't it be looked at? I mean, it's a project. And anyone who has managed a project knows that. You look at it and you see, how it's going. There had been challenges, some of it system-based. So, of course, he knew it was going to be looked at. And then we come in and say, this is not going to happen, we'll sue them, when he knew that this was going to be. At what point
did he know, since you're so sure?
Well, because even myself, I was on Peace and other places. We all knew that there were issues. Who did not know? There were queues and there were challenges, which were, to some extent, we wish didn't happen. But we all know in a project management, issues happen. And when those issues happen, we take them into consideration. So what do you think the minister was doing? She was reviewing reports every week, at least, and following what was going on. But why would you, any patriot, if you care about Ghana and not politics first, why would you, try to tell people you don't have to do this or you don't have to do that?
Who was telling people not to do what?
Well, at least the Honorable Sam George was telling them that, it's not going to be cancelled. We're not going to block your SIM card. When we know, and he should know, this exercise is in the interest of the people.
How is it in the interest? And break it down for us, at least for the number of people who have been asking questions constantly, that why do I have to re-register my SIM card? Because we already registered our SIM cards back in 2010 and 2011. So why did I even need to go through this exercise and go through the two phases? Because after I'm done with the first phase of the registration on my phone, now you're asking me to go to the telcos and go register again. People were saying that that's an infringement on my rights because I'm giving details, personal details, that I should not be given to the telcos. It should remain with the NIA.
So when it was being done in 2011, was it illegal by the Honorable's government? Was it illegal? Right? They did it in 2011. So obviously they found it important, an exercise to be done. So if it was done in 2011 and it was not illegal, why would it be illegal in 2021?
Because they went by the LI that allowed for other ID cards to be used. And yesterday, Sam George spoke extensively on it, that for us, the problem is the fact that you're asking us to use only the Ghana card. When in fact, when you look at the LI, I think it's 2006, it does not even mandate the linkage of the Ghana card to the active SIM.
LI
2006.
Well, LI 2111 mandates that the Ghana card be used as the card for SIM card registration. All All right, and it was passed by Parliament, and the Honorable is an honorable member of that Parliament, and it says that all SIM cards need to be registered, right, with the Ghana card. And if you go through the database, you will see that most of the SIM cards are not yet linked. So that was an exercise that needed to be done. And it was being done per the law, which was passed by a duly constituted Parliament of Ghana.
Which
of
is
the
the
Republic.
LI 2111?
Yes.
But LI 2006, and let's just read Section 10, is the Subscriber Identity Module Registration Regulations 2011. Now, when you go to Section 10, it gives you the other documents that you can use. So let me just go through. It says that in these regulations, unless the context otherwise requires, direct marketing means a form of advertising that allows communication, blah, blah, blah. Now, it says that identification document for a citizen includes a valid driver's license, a valid national health insurance identification card, a valid passport, a valid voter identification card, a valid national identity card, or any other valid form of identification or document that the authority may determine by publication in the Gazette and a daily newspaper of national circulation. For a non-citizen, it means a valid passport or any other travel document, and for a corporate body, it means a certificate of incorporation. So it details the cards or the ID cards that can be used in this process. And they're saying that, why do you think that LI 2111 supersedes LI 2006? Because 2006 gives you the room to use other ID cards. Not all Ghanaians, and per your statement, there are still millions of Ghanaians who are yet to get their Ghana card. So then why do you use the Ghana card only as a mandatory document in re-registering your SIM? Are you not frustrating Ghanaians?
We're not frustrating Ghanaians, and we're certain that the Parliament of Ghana will not frustrate Ghanaians. When they passed the LI 2111, I believe that was passed in 2012, and that would have been the time of the Honorable's, very favorite government in 2012. The NDC were in the majority at that time, and they passed that law that mandated that the SIM card, right, has to be linked to the Ghana card. This is in 2012. With all due respect to 2006, laws would not supersede that of 2012. So as at now, the regulations that apply would be that of 2111. 2111, which was passed in 2012. All right, and it said that the Ghana card has to be the ID. So this was an exercise waiting to be done, and we got to a time fraud was all over the place. Has been, that's cyber fraud, and it was necessary for us. With due respect, the previous government tried in 2011 to do a SIM re-registration, and we saw the failure. We saw that fraud did not go down. We saw that, for all intents and purposes, the goal of that exercise, which was not illegal, I'm sure the Honorable would not support anything illegal. It was legally done, but it failed. So we have taken lessons from this. All right, we took time. I was actually part of the technical subcommittee. I was co-chair of that committee that worked in the background to make sure this exercise was as robust as possible. And when we looked at it, we looked at the failures that happened in 2011 and made sure that we take lessons from that. All right, we did not want shortcuts. We didn't want process. There were easy routes that could have been taken, but we thought it prudent that we do all we can to make sure that we have the most robust registration process, which is what I believe is being done exactly as technically advised to the minister for the sector. And that is to make sure that not only do we link the Ghana card to the SIM card, but that we have a second process where you show up and you physically authenticate. After all, you yourself, just common sense. We often use IDs for identification. You go out and you put your, you show an ID, right? But often we want to sign and confirm that we're who we say we are. We even put a signature often to many of the agreements and so on that we do to authenticate that not only is this something, an agreement that has been had or a contract, but that I am the one who signed that I did this. Okay? The whole idea behind this exercise is that, the Ghana card, which is a very, amazing and effective and superior card. All right? I agree to that.
What makes it amazing?
Oh, it's amazing. It has
what makes it superior
the primary,
over the passport?
the primary key. All right? It's embedded on the card. It's a smart card. I mean, it is top notch.
But I needed my passport to get a Ghana card.
I understand. You have to start from
the same
somewhere.
document that I needed to get my Ghana card is inferior to this card.
I understand,
that
but
it aided me in getting.
I get you, Bella, but we take your biometrics. We embed the biometrics on the card. The card that you're holding actually has biometrics and primary key, that have been embedded on the card. It's an amazing card. Trust me. And after you've gotten that Ghana card, the problem is that if you do a registration or a linkage between the SIM and the Ghana card, all right, if you don't see the face, it's very basic. You don't even see the person who has done this. They're all a history of cloning of cards and all that, which I'm sure the Honorable, who's an engineer, knows that.
Okay.
All right? So we want to see your face. We do not want to see the failures of 2011 repeated.
Okay.
All right? So we want to see you. You come in, you identify yourself, you take your confirmation. Who is going to sue against this? With all due respect, other than because of politics.
Okay. Well, Honorable Sam George has just joined us. He's the MP for Ningo Pram and also the Deputy Ranking Member for the Communications Committee in Parliament. And that video we played earlier, that was an interview right here with Johnny Hughes on TV3Newday. He was cocksure that there had to be an extension of the dates because there were still a number of Ghanaians who had not gotten their Ghana card, had not also been able to re-register their SIMs. And if the extension did not happen, then they were going to sue government for that. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning,
Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Very well. Good morning to my brother. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but Prince says that you must have known that there was going to be an extension, which is why you said it earlier, because everybody saw the challenges, that the re-registration of the same was fraught with. So clearly, it was obvious there was going to be an extension of the deadline.
Was it obvious? The minister had made it clear that she was going to stick to her guns. We had met the minister in October as a committee and raised the issue about the impracticality of a 6 months timeline. Let me say good morning to our viewers. Impracticality of a 6 months timeline, but she made it clear that for her, she believed that the process could be completed in that timeline. And, well, if it was that obvious, like I said yesterday, common sense has finally prevailed. It was just common sense that they couldn't have completed it given the challenges. When I walked into the studio, I heard Prince make comments about the legal framework for the work that's that's been done, and it's interesting that he says he was co-chair of the technical committee that advised the chairman. Respectfully, I think that they misadvised the minister.
How so?
Yeah, and so I would stop blaming the minister. Now I'll start blaming Prince for misleading the minister. Parliament is clear. Parliament passes legislation and legislative instruments. Legislative instruments are specific. And so when you take a legislative instrument, there's a title for it. Now, when you take the LI 2111, it is called the National Identity Register Regulation of 2012. Now, it means that what that LI is about is simply the National Identity Register. Now, when you take the LI 2006, that is called the Subscriber Identity Model Registration Regulations, SIM registration regulations. You cannot say that they are one and the same. They can't be the same. Parliament passed regulations for SIM card registration. That's LI 2006. Parliament passed regulations for a national identity register which gives birth to the Ghana card. That's LI 2111. They're completely different issues. Okay. And I've heard the minister constantly, wrongly, use both interchangeably. And now I get where it's coming from. It's coming from Prince and his committee. It's wrong. Okay, but I expect the minister to know better. She's older in Parliament. She's a senior lawyer. So even if younger technical people are misleading her, she still has ultimate responsibility to know that what she's being told is wrong. Now, when you take LI 2006, and LI 2006 was passed in 2011, and LI 2111 was passed in 2012. Now, if you take LI, when you pass an LI, and that LI is going to have an effect on another LI, we include it within the text of the LI. Okay. So when you take LI 2111, go to section 23. Section 23 of LI 2111. Section 23 of LI 2111 is headlined, has a subtitle, Revocation. So in an LI, you would have a revocation, and that would tell you, Parliament will tell you that this LI we are passing, because it's going to be in conflict with ABC law that we have previously passed, those laws are no longer in vain. So read 23. Legislative instruments made under the Identity Cards Act 1972, NRCD 129, and enforced immediately before the commencement of these regulations are hereby revoked. In here, do you see anything about the same registration regulations, LI 2006, being revoked? No. Now, let's go back to LI 2006.
Okay.
Now, LI 2006, which is the only law in Ghana today for the registration of SIM cards, and what we are doing is a re-registration. Even though I don't have a problem with it, I've always maintained that I don't have a problem with the policy initiative to re-register SIM cards. It brings sanity to the area. I don't have a problem with it. The problem I have is the procedure. Now, the procedure must fall within the dictates of LI 2006. Okay. Now, LI 2006 talks about what to use to register. Now, in there, it talks about, if you go to section 2, it talks about registration of a SIM card, of a SIM. A network operator or service provider shall register a SIM of a subscriber. A subscriber, for the purpose of the registration of the subscriber identity model, which is a SIM of that subscriber, shall furnish the network operator or service provider with the following information. Parliament has passed a law on how you should register a SIM. 1, the name and residential or occupational address of the subscriber. My name is Samuel Nate George. My occupational address is 11th floor, job 600, Parliament House. The next thing, the date of birth in the case of the individual, 22nd January 1985. Incorporation in the case of a body corporate, that will not apply to me. But if it was a company, you provide that. Registration in the case of a partnership or an incorporated body of persons, again. Then C, an identification document. That's what it says. So this is what Parliament has passed as law. I've provided my name, my address, my date of birth, and then an identification document. Now, what is an identification document? The LI deals with that in section 10. In section 10, section 10 is called interpretation. And so it goes on to describe what an identity document is. It says, in these regulations, unless the context otherwise requires, identification documents will be A, for a citizen includes I, a valid driver's license, II, a valid national health insurance identification card, III, a valid passport, IV, a valid voter's identification card, V, a valid national identity card. And be careful, mind that phrase, national identity card. And then it says V again, but that should be VI. Any other valid form of identification document the authority may determine by publication in the Gazette and a daily newspaper of national circulation. So can Prince and his minister explain to me how Parliament has passed the law on SIM registration, specified the requirements for registering a SIM card, gone ahead to interpret to you what it means by identity document? And look, I'm not going to play the ostrich. Of this 6, only 5 will be applicable today. Why? You can no longer use the II, a valid national health insurance card, because post this law, a case, I think it was Abu Ramadan versus Electoral Commission case, went to court, and the Supreme Court ruled that a national health insurance card cannot be used as a valid determinant of national identity. And so on the basis of that, since you are trying to use these cards to identify the nationality of individuals, because it is not as though only Ghanaians register a SIM card, but in registration of SIM cards, you want to have a database of Ghanaians holding the SIM card and foreigners holding the SIM card. So if a card cannot tell you correctly what the identity would be, we would be okay with us saying you can't use the National Health Insurance card based on the Supreme Court ruling. But for the rest of the items that have been specified in the law by Parliament as what are required for registering a SIM card, how then do you tell me that the National Identity Card, which is what we call the Ghana card, which is one of 6, can be the sole card? Now let's even challenge that again, and that will be my final point.
Does it not come with the LI 2111 then? Because if you look at section 7, it says mandatory use of national identity card, and it said it can be used
I would
for
explain that.
one of those things to be the registration of the SIM card.
So you see, that's why I said to you that when it comes to Parliament, acts are a bit omnibus, but legislative instruments are specific to specific issues. That's why we don't do an LI that covers a number of issues. LIs are specific to what exactly it is you are dealing with. Okay. So under a ministry, under the NCA, for example, the NCA has one act of Parliament that sets it up. But under the NCA, you've got a number of regulations that have been passed to enforce what. There's a different regulation at the NCA that governs the operations of the electronic tribunal. There's a different legislative instrument that governs, for example, even the issue of spectrum releases. So you have one act, but several regulations that deal with the work that the regulation does. Now, you cannot superimpose what another LI, which is specific to a national identity card, it does not have superiority over an existing LI for a specific issue on that issue.
Unless it's revoked. Like
unless it's revoked.
Okay.
Now, when you go to Section 7 of LI 2111, which you refer to, mandatory use of national identity card. Now, let's read. A national identity card issued to an individual shall be used for the following transactions where identification is required. And a list, including passport, driver's license, bank account, insurance, all the way. I think the L or the J is, the L is the registration of SIM cards. Yeah. Good. Now, what this means is that when you are going to do the registration of SIM cards, for example, you cannot then wake up tomorrow and say you are excluding the Ghana card from being one of the cards that will be used. Because mandatorily, in the number of cards you would use or the number of options available for acquiring it, the Ghana card must be part of it. So you have a list of options. But there are people who wake up, there are some banks you go to, and they'll tell you, we don't accept the new voter's ID card. You know that. At the point in time, they were not accepting the new voter's ID card, even after we had used it for the election. Now, you cannot say that with a Ghana card, because there's a mandatory use of it. So if I show up to register a SIM card, you cannot tell me that, oh, because I came with a Ghana card, you prefer to register with voter's ID card or passport. You understand me? So you are discriminating against me because I'm using it. So what it's just saying is that when you are doing any of these transactions, I think there are about 13 or 14 of them, anybody who shows up with a Ghana card must be allowed to do the registration. However, it does not say anywhere in there that it shall be the only card. Look, what this would have read, if that was the intent, and I'm happy you admit that this law was passed by us. It was passed by Honorable Haruna Idrisu. We've had conversations to understand what was the intentment of the minister at the time who presented it before Parliament. If our intention as the NDC when we passed this law was that we wanted the Ghana card to become the sole card, this is what it would have read. A national identity card issued to an individual shall be solely used for the following transactions. Then you would have closed the bracket and made it mandatory and unitary, which means that it will be the only. But in this instant, what you have done is you have said anybody who is going to, so if the Bank of Ghana, for example, is saying that based on something, they do that every time. They call it what? KYC, know your customer. So go back to your bank and go and renew or update your details. And they're issuing a list of cards that you can use to update it. Mandatorily, one of them must be the Ghana card. That's what we are saying. So we are saying that if you want to get a driver's license, mandatorily, one of the cards you should be able to use that the DVLA should accept. What we were trying to do was create a broad acceptability for the Ghana card across various government services. So we are doing a national ID card. That Ghana ID card, mind you, several other, DVLA, for example, Bank of Ghana had already had airlines that govern their operations.
Yeah.
In the governance of their operations, they may not necessarily have specified that the Ghana card could be used.
I'll let you come in, Prince.
We're almost run out of time.
I'll let you. No. I made you speak for a while. No, I made you speak for a while. So I also need to give him equal time.
That shows how difficult.
Don't worry.
It's no difficult.
I'll let you come in.
I am taking my time to explain it.
He's parsing so much. He has to go on and on and on. When I spoke, it was so concise, right? He's going on and on and on.
Allow him to speak.
He has to take so much time, and we're almost out of time.
Don't worry, please. Please
it's interesting. Prince is now modulating time. I'm taking my time to explain it, to take away any confusion in anybody's mind. And so the point I'm simply making here is that when we say the mandatory use of the national ID card, it simply means that anybody, any of the 14 things that have been listed in LI 2111 must necessarily include, and in the case of SIM registration, there is no problem, because already we had said in the SIM registration LI that a national identity card can be used. And so that's what I'm saying, that right now we've managed to get the extension. It is not honky-dory yet. We're going after the ministry on the next leg. And
why? Because
the ministry is doing a legal thing illegally.
But they've explained, and in fact, the NIA also came out to explain. I remember I watched Dufie Badu, I think that's her name. She's the Director of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. And they asked her why the Ghana card was the sole identity card that needed to be used for the re-registration. She said, well, because, and Prince just said it as well, that your biometrics were taken. And all the other cards do not have that. And so how then are we able to tell that it's actually you who's registering your card?
That's not true.
It's because of
when
the
you
biometrics.
go, when you go to DVLA to register, DVLA takes your biometrics. So your driver's license, they have your biometrics. They can cross-reference with that database. When you go for a Ghanaian passport, they take your biometrics. They can confirm with that database. When you go for, when we went for our voters ID card, our biometrics were taken. So it is not true. I'm telling you, look, any excuse they bring, Bella, we would sit here and show you how it does not hold water. Because I've just shown you that what the lady you said says, it's not true. Because driver's license, passport, voter's ID card, they take your biometrics. So if it is about biometrics, that again is false. And look, the problem I have here is, this is a simple thing. There's only one person with power to amend LI 2006. Because one thing I want Prince to answer for me is, what is the legal framework for registration of SIM cards in Ghana?
Okay.
What law regulates the registration of SIM cards in Ghana? Now, who has the power to change that law to reflect what the new thinking of the technical committee that has advised the minister is? It's the minister. She simply ought to have come back to Parliament with an amendment to LI 2006 to amend the interpretation of identity document.
Would the minority have also gone ahead
no, but
to pass?
You see,
and
when you come to Parliament, it doesn't mean that as soon as you come to Parliament, we are not a rubber stamp Parliament. It doesn't mean that as soon as you come, we go. We will question the policy directive, and many times when we do that, the ministry is able to see the sense in what we are saying and amend their position.
Prince, what do you say to this? Because he's asked you some questions as well. Why was it not revoked? So that at least now that you're using LI 2111 and saying that supersedes 2006, then maybe if you had revoked it, it would have been easier for you to go ahead with just the Ghana card being the sole identity card to re-register your SIM.
I understand, but this law was passed by the NDC government, and you know, they know how competently they pass their laws. But the bottom line is, when even, let's ask our viewers, when we say something is mandatory, what does it mean? It's a must. It must be used. So even if you were to use some other card, you can't escape the mandatory card that is to be used. It said mandate. All right? So with all due respect to the passing of the laws, and I mean parsing, I don't mean passing. Parse we parse the words, and then we look at the grammar. And I know Honorable is very eloquent. You know, parsing the whole thing and making it sound that he used words like it can be used, and it's one of, no, it said mandate. And I'm sure many viewers can attest to a simple common sense explanation for the word mandate.
So should the minister not have gone to Parliament?
No, it said it's a mandatory. It's a mandatory pass a new. We pass so many laws in this country. Our biggest issue is often the enforcement of the laws, and every Ghanaian can tell you that in their sleep. We have laws; they are there. The LI has been passed, the 2111, and it said that the Ghana card is a mandatory card that must be used for SIM registration, among other you know, registrations that need to be done. And so in our sector, which the Honorable is very versed in, but I know politics always, you know, puts us in certain situations. But if he was minister and we gave him the advice, and he realized that the Ghana card is an amazing, superior card, with superior security features, and it's already, there's a law that said that it's a mandatory card for registration, I'm sure he will probably acquiesce to our advice. So
these superior features,
yes,
again, passport, your bios are taken. The voters ID card that we all got, the new one before the 2020 general elections, we're even told that we'll have, you know, the bio, our faces also taken as well. All those details were taken. And so how is Ghana card then superior?
Ghana card is superior because it has embedded, it's a smart card. All right, I'm not here, I mean, I'm not an NIA official trying to, you know, upsell Ghana card. But the simple fact is that it's a card that has a chip on it. You can see that chip.
And what does this chip do?
That chip has embedded data on it. It has primary key infrastructure. You may have seen, you know, the whole celebration of Ghana being one of the first African countries to be, you know, to be admitted into the primary key directory around the world of the ICAO organization. Not too long ago, and I happen to have been privileged to represent the minister on that. So it is a smart card proving, and I know the minister, when, you know, we're outside a bit of the political realm, will acknowledge the Honorable that the Ghana card is definitely a superior card. So, you know, using that Ghana card mandated. Even though, you know, when Dr. Haji was heading the NIA, unfortunately, they did very little for 8 years, which is one of the reasons why we have about 7.5 million people who are not yet registered.
It's his fault.
Of course. What did they do for 8 years?
How is it his fault?
For 8 years. Let's ask the Honorable what they did in 8 years. Because this current National Identification Authority has been in place for, what, 5 years now. And they've been able to register about 15 million people. And we're saying that they have not been able to register everyone. And every Ghanaian today is yearning for their Ghana card.
Because you haven't given them any other option. You're telling them that that is the sole card that they need to use to go around. Their bank accounts, well, the banks are calling them and asking them that by end of July, if you do not come and show your Ghana card, to also re-register your details at the bank.
Because so much is happening now, unlike before in the previous administration. If you look at Act, the Ghana Act, the original Act, I think it's 707. It was passed in 2004, all right, if my memory serves me right. And we started developing the Ghana card. And then, unfortunately, came in the Honorable's government from 2009. And from 2009 for 8 years, we took lots of step backs, including the development of the Ghana card. And these are the questions that often is not asked. What was done in the intervening 8 years before the MPP came back to power?
Well, what you are doing now is asking people to queue for many hours, some of them not being able to go to work.
Bella,
there was a yesterday at the head office.
I hear you.
It has been chaotic.
I hear you.
For many weeks now.
I have no...
Or even months.
I have...
Are you okay with that? And for
no, I'm not. I'm not okay.
Does that supersede the fact that for 8 years,
Bella,
the previous government didn't do anything?
No, I do not in any way, take any comfort in Ghanaians having to queue. And I apologize for that. I apologize for any inconveniences that, we've had to go through. And we're working feverishly. I'm so happy, however, to report, for instance, the last 2 months, the biometric capture, which had hitherto been a problem, has now exceeded the short code registration. That's the linkage, right, of the Ghana card to the SIM. We're now doing more biometric captures over the last 2 months. So the system is working better and better.
But you have 7.5 million more citizens.
I understand. Well,
is there enough time?
You yourself,
we're told that it's been extended to the
Bella,
end of
you
July.
yourself, I
is
think
that enough time to register these 7.5 million
just one second,
citizens?
just a moment. Right now we have about 14 million people that had been registered on the
SIM
by
cards
USSD. They have linked their Ghana card to the SIM cards. 14 million, right? We're getting closer and closer to about half of the estimated population of the SIM card, owners.
Yeah.
All right. And of the 14 million, about 10 million of them have now had their biometric captured. All right. So, and if you look at the trend, I've actually looked at it, you will see that since the last 2 months, we're now having more biometric captures captured for the first time relative to those who are doing the simple linkage of their Ghana card, which is the first step, very important step, and it takes us a long way. But the captures are now exceeding. So we're on track. Now the difference is now 10 million versus 14 million. We're getting so close. All right, the system is now being fine-tuned as we always envisage. If you look at this biometric capture that's happening, Bella, you will find that it saves a lot of money. Had we had to have biometric devices, which is what originally we were looking at, but we realized it will cost so much. It will cost each biometric device costs up to about $2,000, and this industry, which the Honorable is very much a part of, all right, is one that has about 100,000 agents. 100,000.
But that's why the NIA has the structures already.
I get you, but the NIA has the data, all right, but we need the devices so that, when you get to the airport, they don't just take your passport. They also have you do biometric, right? I'm sure you've seen it. You do biometric capture. They need to authenticate once again that you are the person who has bought.
But it already exists. The NIA
I know,
already
but
has
why?
a system. They've already trained people who are doing this.
I get you.
Why do we need this all over again?
Bella, you have the data. You have the data. Passport. Let's use passport. All right? The data is there. But there's a need for you to verify that you are the person presenting that passport. And you are the true owner of that passport. So they take your capture again. And they also put it on the record to confirm
so you're saying
that you are who you say you are.
These private entities are better at capturing our details than the NIA, because I know that in 2016 a software was purchased.
No, there is no.
It was supposed to fight
all
terrorism
these
and all
Bella,
of that.
Bella, this is
I'm bringing that in
propaganda.
How is it propaganda?
The National the National Information Technology Agency is the primary authority that is actually given the right to store our data. The data center of NITA. No, I'm not going into slippery. I know you've been on the program. But NITA is the authorized agency for storage of
So
data in this country. And that
why
is where
is there a private
the central
agency
hold
that
on,
is taking
hold
our
on one
details?
second. Hold on. The data is stored at NITA. And NITA is the very body that has been authorized in the country to store our data.
But
I mean,
collected by
how much more authentic can that be?
But
that
it's
data
collected by private people.
It's collected by private people because, there are private developers in the system because they develop systems to allow us to capture that data. But that data is not stored on any private premise.
But they can
That is just
decide to, and we would not
No,
know.
they don't.
And I'll tell you
they
why.
Don't,
Let me just
because
read something.
hold on one second. NCA is the authority that leads this whole effort in the capture of information. All right? And they know, and I know for a fact, all right, the middleware and all the systems in between the capturing of that data is fully under the ambience of the NCA. So how is it if someone is a developer and they come up with a system, right? Let's say your Microsoft Office, and you go and you buy it. Is Microsoft sitting on your computer per se saying that, because you're using a Microsoft Office to capture or to type information, that Microsoft is essentially the one that owns?
And that's why I want to read. Let me read something from the Africa
This
report.
has been looked at.
There was a Pegasus machine that was bought by the previous government. Now, let me just read, one paragraph. It says that Ghana's previous administration had bought a product called the Pegasus machine from Israeli tech company NSO. In an investigation by Forbidden Stories, a non-profit France-based organization based on the protection of journalists, at least 180 journalists around the world had been selected as targets by clients of the NSO group. So not in Ghana necessarily, because this study was conducted in other countries as well, like Nigeria, and South Africa. But there was some way by which even journalists were being hacked. Their phones were being hacked into. They were looking at everything they were doing. They were listening in on their calls. And that is why I'm asking that if you're asking a private institution to take our details, yes, they may send all the details to NITA to store. But what indicates that they will not be able to clone those details and use it for other things as well?
Bella,
how sure are we?
You are falling, with all due respect, and by this statement, you're almost falling into the realm of propaganda.
How am I falling? I'm reading a report
just
and
one
you're saying
second.
I'm falling into the realm of propaganda.
And that same report is doing the same thing. It's speculation.
How is it speculation?
Hold on.
It's an investigation that was carried
Hold on.
out.
There can be hacking at any point in time. That's why we have cybersecurity authority in place. They look out, they do ethical hacking, they do all these things to protect us. But just speculating that, some private organization could. I mean, with all due respect to the MNOs, are they not private? They collect information. But there is supervision in place. And the supervision is being provided by the duly authorized agencies. There is the National Cybersecurity Authority in place, which has recently been upgraded, as you know, with the whole digital agenda of this government, which is matched by any means that you look at it. All right, the National Cybersecurity Authority has become an authority for the first time. The NCA, which uses or developers, we looked at the NIA. At that time, their app was not ready, so we needed to move, and we got a system.
Private.
Of course, you
don't think they can clone, and that's the question I keep asking. I'll come to you.
You don't think MTN could possibly misuse your data? But we supervise them.
But even that, there are limitations as to what data they can take from us.
My dear, all your calls. Hold on. I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want to scare anybody.
So now, if we are supposed to give all these
hold on.
This,
with all due respect, this is propaganda at its highest, because you make calls, all right, and MTN could possibly listen in. You're not worried. Why? Because the NCA is duly making sure that they do what they're supposed to do. The Media Commission is doing its job, right? So why is it suddenly, when it comes to collecting data to ensure that the owners of SIM are properly vetted? Do you understand the importance?
But
hold on, just 1 second. you know how. I know that you're very interactive with me, but you let Honorable go on and on and on and on.
That's not
but that's
the
fine.
point of conversation.
But I'm just saying that
questions. You
Bella,
are in government. Ghanaians are asking questions.
Hold on, Bella.
And I have every right to
I
ask
know
you
you're
those
a
questions
little
so
harder
you can
on government,
give them
but Bella,
the responses that
Bella,
they need.
I'm just saying that, if you just let me flow just a little bit,
okay,
you will see that when it comes to the data that we already have in place, you will see that we're comfortable with private entities within the system. Be it the MNOs, they're all private, right? And we're comfortable making calls, and we believe that the protections are in place. Why is it that all of a sudden, when we're collecting this vital information to make sure that the owners of SIM are who they say they are, then we suddenly, because Honorable has been doing a very good job with the propaganda bit with due respect, we say that there is a private entity involved. But there's a private entity involved in all the calls you make. There's a private entity involved in all your other data that you send on your phone and so on. Why are we worried about that?
Prince.
Because they haven't. Propaganda is not part of it. So what I'm saying.
Concerns of Ghanaians propaganda?
No, I'm just saying that you seem to be comfortable. You haven't talked about. Nobody's complaining about that part.
Nobody.
They're always private. All right, industry. We are a market-based. Thank God for the market-based economics that we have that now NDC subscribes to so well. All right. Before they said they were socialists. Now it seems they're more markets-based than the MPP.
Okay.
And we're all comfortable with private industry and entrepreneurs in our system. All we need to do is to regulate them. And I'm telling you that the SIM registration that is happening, all right, has laws. The EI-63 is in place. The central SIM registration is in place.
Okay.
Now, for the first time, we're able to store this information from all the telcos of our SIMs, all right, which are duly registered with the Ghana card. And then we're also able to have a central equipment registration for the first time. Very soon, if you lose your phone, you can just call and block it. You know that.
Okay.
All these are being developed and stored
Land
at
on this
NITA.
for me, please.
They are stored at NITA.
Okay.
And NITA is duly authorized by the Honorable's House of Parliament.
Okay.
And as the rightful place to store our data. So I don't see what the problem is. So just to conclude, I'm just saying that this SIM registration requires a mandatory Ghana card. That's happening.
Okay.
There are laws. If you look at the Payment Services, the Payment Systems and Services Act, which was passed by Parliament for the Bank of Ghana, it allows for biometric capture and biometrics to be captured by the Bank of Ghana and other agencies like that. He himself mentioned passport, DVLA, and all those agencies capture biometrics. So we're saying the NCA is also capturing biometrics.
Okay.
It's an important second step. It is solely meant to avoid the failure that happened in 2011 when the Honorable's government tried to do a SIM re-registration and they failed. We do not want to fail, and that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it, two-step.
Thank you. Honorable Sam George, what do you say to the conversation about privacy being breached?
Prince has said a lot that and I have to really refrain from being led into temptation for certain personal reasons. But look, let's state this here and now. The Ghana card is not a creation of the NPP, first and foremost, or of this government. And when you talk about primary keys and all of that, it's not a new thing.
But we did it.
It's not a new thing.
The MPP.
Oh, Prince, when you were speaking, I was very quiet though. You spoke for almost 15 minutes. I was quiet.
So.
The national the voter's ID card. That database has primary keys as well. The passport has primary keys.
But it's not embedded on it.
So if you are talking about if you're talking about databases having primary keys, the value of a primary key is not on the card, it's on the database. It's the fact that you can query the database using the primary key. That's the whole essence of it. It's not about the card. It's about, and even your passport is chip embedded. So what are you talking about? And the passport is the source document for the Ghana card.
The passport is chip embedded.
Yes. If you are not aware, I'm telling you. The Ghanaian passport is chip embedded. If you didn't know this, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Okay? But look, let's call a spade a spade. And you see, the Ghana card, again, like I said, I don't want to be led into temptation. I don't want to make the Ghana card the subject of the conversation. The subject of this conversation is the poor policy decision of the ministry. Okay, so I don't want us to pivot and move away from that and go to the Ghana card, because that's why I said you're leading me into temptation. There are several things. Because look, you're talking about NITA being the database. The National Identification Authority, where is the data, the biometric data they collected? Is it sitting on NITA server? Is it sitting at the NITA National Data Center?
Where is it?
You are not aware that there's backup sitting with a German company?
There is?
You see, that's why I said be careful the slippery slope you want to go. Because you are the one sitting here and rightly saying that NITA is supposed to hold all critical national as database. I'm asking you, you are the administrator of GIFEC. NITA, does NITA hold the Ghana card, the biometric databases that NIA collected? Is NITA holding that database? No.
And you're saying what? It's being held by a German company?
There was 2 years ago, it became an issue that we even had to call Kenatefa over. Because a backup, the redundancy, what we call redundancy, the redundancy was being held in a German server farm. Okay, so these are some of the challenges that's what I'm saying. Be careful where you want us to go, and I'm being careful. I mean, you raised the Pegasus issue. People are in jail today. William Tevi, the former DG, is in jail today because of the purchase of Pegasus. Okay, do you want us to discuss Pegasus? Are you telling me that this government is not using Pegasus? Are you telling me Pegasus is parked somewhere? We don't want to go into that. Recently, Standogbe had to put out the message he got from Apple. What system was trying to hit Standogbe's phone? You think we don't know what's going on in this country? Go and take your cybersecurity law, the law that set up the Cybersecurity Act, the authority, the Cybersecurity Act, and go and read that law and see how from Section 70 of that act, it becomes an intrusive act where you are intruding into the privacy of citizens. Look, like I said, let's not get, don't lead me into temptation this morning.
Okay.
But you see,
do you think that the extension, the time that I've been given will be enough?
When you talk about the challenges of the system and this extension, look, you want to fix this problem, simply comply with LI 2006.
Okay.
Include and you would not see this mad rush on the NIA if you were having all the 4 documents being allowed to do the biometric registration. Look, you talk about NIA, and you see,
but that will stop people from wanting to get the Ghana card because they can use the other card.
It keeps coming because you see, I'm seeing here the things he said. Look, let me tell you, you say you are doing a SIM registration. You say you want to use the Ghana card database. I agree. Use the Ghana card database. So tell me, why is it that you're talking about primary keys? You went on and on about primary keys. If you are going to activate the primary key function of the Ghana card database, when I dial a short code, all I ought to do is put in my Ghana card number. The primary key function of that database is supposed to populate the fields with all my data that is sitting there. You don't need to take my biometric data again, because once I enter my Ghana card details, on there, you already have, your EFI system has my fingerprints, all the 10 fingerprints were taken. On there, you have my date of birth, you have my full name. But now, the system they are running, when you do the short code, you have to manually enter your data. So what's the value of the primary key?
And then you go back to the
and go back again.
But they are saying because we do not see your
when
face.
he sat here,
we want to see you registering, because in the past, when we registered the SIM cards, we did not see people registering face to face. And so you can take someone's card and use that to register a SIM. And if you commit any fraud, then that person will be arrested instead of you.
Bella, if you want to deal with identity theft and fraud, it is not by asking Ghanaians to go back and take their biometrics again. All you would have done would have been biometric verification. So take, for example, the Electoral Commission has taken your biometrics.
And my time is up, though, so we have to land.
I mean, you're allowed to have a really hard time. But when the Electoral Commission took your biometrics, on election day, when you go there, what do? Do they rescan your biometrics?
or they just verify you by putting one finger. When you want to do a renewal of your passport, which is biometric, because they have already captured it, when you go, what do? You put your finger on it and you are verified. When you are traveling and we want to verify your identity, that the passport you are using is yours, what do? We either scan your iris or we take one finger. We don't recollect your data again.
Can I speak to just this for
Do you get the point I'm making?
Okay.
So when they are doing SIM registration and they are saying you must go back and now go and resubmit biometrics again, you can't tell me that it is about identity fraud.
Okay.
Because identity fraud, you don't need to recollect it. All you need to do is verify against the database. Is he suggesting that we're actually not using the NIA database? Because what is going on now, from a technical perspective, we are simply not using the NIA's database.
Can I
all right, just 10 seconds, please. We have to go.
Yeah, so
you didn't give me enough time, and then a little time you give
10
me.
seconds. No, he's also complaining I didn't. He also says I gave you too much time, so which is which? I have to go, but please, you said you wanted to respond to that.
Propaganda. Take the time.
All right, I can't challenge you on that.
We have to go. I'll be taking off air. What do you want to say about just the last point?
I'm just saying that, when we started this project, we had wanted to do the biometric verification. It's, it was exactly what we saw. Unfortunately, in our industry, we have 40 million SIMs. Its highest by far is nothing relative to the National Health Insurance, SNIT, and others who have done the linkage to the Ghana card. Ours is huge, 40 million, more than the Electoral Commission. So we needed a solution. And because we could not verify so many people against the database, which was there, all right, we said that let's capture the confirmation of the people. Let's see them. Let's see them. Let's capture this information. When you get your SIM card, you may use it for many, many years, sometimes decades. Let's do this capture. Let's put it on the record. In case something happens, we know that you showed up. And that you were who you said you were.
But that's what I'm saying, that you just need one finger, or just your eye. So why do I take everything? You want to see us. All right. Well, it's been extended to the end of July. Let's see if that will be enough time to capture the 7.5 million people. You don't think it will be possible? Anyway, I've been speaking to Prince Owusu Sefa. He's the CEO of GIFEC, and Honorable Sam George is the deputy ranking member of the Communications Committee in Parliament, and he's the MP for Ningo Pram Pram. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll be back with a lot more right here on TV3 New Day. Keep watching.